How should we understand Jesus coming soon when this is a 2,000 plus year old promise? I received some questions about the book of Revelation from a guy on Instagram named David. I like David because David calls the book of Revelation the book of Revelation. He doesn't call it the book of Revelations. Good work, David. Anyways, first question. How are we to understand this idea that Jesus is coming soon when we've been hearing this for more than 2,000 years? And I'm going to add a follow-up question. And that question is this. How are we to make it logically consistent and rational that cultures 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and everybody in between didn't have Jesus come soon? But now in this culture, when we see that our culture is falling apart, as many others did in the past, we now think that we are going to have Jesus come soon. I don't blame people for struggling with this. Our culture is a wreck. Every generation thinks that theirs is going to be the one where the world ends. We had Y2K, 2012. We've had this throughout history. So let's look at this all rationally. I'm going to have three things that we're going to look at. We're going to look at actual scriptural evidence. We're going to look at the Greek word. We're going to look at some comparisons. And then we're going to look at some of the ideas and where Christians tend to land on this. So the first thing we want to look at is the contextual summary. If you are not looking at the greater context, you are failing at Bible study. The summary is this. Revelation 22:14-21 concludes the epilogue begun in verse 6. It contains promises, blessings, an invitation, a warning, and a benediction. The Old Testament closed with the promise that the Son of Righteousness will arise with healing in its wings. That's Malachi 4:2. The New Testament closes with the promise that the bright morning star will come. Just as the morning star appears before the sun rises, so Jesus will come for the church before he returns to restore Israel to himself. The second thing we're going to look at is the Greek word itself. It's tachi, and it is most commonly translated to quickly. It is an adverb. The second thing we're going to look at are some translational comparisons. You need to look at different translations. If all you do is read your NIV or ESV or your King James, please don't read the King James, but if all you do is read one translation, then you're missing out on other opinions. And if you think your NIV is the only good translation, then you're arrogant. So move on. We've got a handful here. So if we scroll to the top, we're going to start with the ASV. That's the American Standard Version. That's going to use the term quickly. The next, the Bible in Basic English, is going to use the term quickly. Common English Bible. There we got the word soon. Moving down to Common English Bible with the Apocrypha, you've got coming soon. If you just keep scrolling, it's either going to be soon or it is going to be quickly. Remember that. Moving on to the next thing we're going to look at. You've got this right here. Adverb. Tachyon. That is a variation of the Greek word we looked at right here. What that says, it actually derives from a comparative form of tachus, thus means more quickly, more swiftly, and more suddenly. Remember those terms, swift and suddenly. Then we're going to go up here, adverb. Again, this is a variation of the word we looked at first, meaning shortly, speedily, soon, or hastily. So this is where the translations are deriving which term they decide to use. Now, the third thing, we're going to talk about where people tend to land with this. There is an entire camp of people that believe the Greek word better describes how the event will happen rather than when. Does that align with kind of what we've lived and experienced? Did Jesus come 1,000 years ago? Did he come 500 years ago? Did he come 50 years ago? No. So really, the idea that he's coming soon, in my opinion, can be ruled out. It is not proven to be true. So if we now think we are the special generation that, now he's going to come soon. Well, guess what? Every other human who lived, they thought that too, and it did not come true. So why are we arrogant? Why do we think we are the magical ones? We're going to have Jesus come soon. So then, once you can let that go and let the arrogance go, consider that we translate that word two different ways. Tachi either comes out as quickly or soon. More commonly, it's quickly. So now let's try to wrap our minds around why that might be. When Jesus comes is either a timeline idea or it is a how it happens idea. And that's why there's a camp of people that think that word is translated to quickly to describe how the event will happen. Remember, we had suddenly, we had hastily, we had swiftly. These are all action words. This is how long something takes. This is not a timeline idea. 1 Corinthians 15:52 describes the event as occurring in a moment or in the blink of an eye. Some translations will say, I believe, a twinkling of an eye. So now slow down. The Greek word, it either means soon or quickly in English. It is a tough word to translate, just like everything else. It's why we have so many translations. Look through a concordance. Read about the word. if you don't want to take my opinion for it. But use concordances to try to figure out what's going on. It either means quickly, which in English is more of a how something happens type of term, or it means soon, which in English is more of a timeline, a when something is going to happen term. Again, in my opinion, I don't think I'm special or that our culture is special, that now I'm the one, when this book has existed for so long, that Jesus is coming soon on a timeline perspective. That's just not me. And I'm not hating on people who do think that. You're entitled to your opinion. But if the Greek word is more commonly translated to quickly, which is more of a how something happened term, and I have the lived experience that every other Christian throughout history thought that he was coming soon on a timeline perspective, proven wrong, then that makes me think, well, I've got the verification from the translation being more commonly meaning quickly. I have the lived experience that he hasn't come yet. So that leads me to believe that this word should be translated as quickly or swiftly or suddenly, something like that. And what they're actually saying is that when Jesus comes, whether it be 50 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years from now, when he comes, when that event takes place, it is going to be a fast-paced event. It's going to be a quick thing that happens. He's going to snatch the church back up, and then everything else will happen. As usual, though, I do not think I'm right. These are just my opinions and ideas. Talk to people smarter than me. Do your own research. Please take a moment to subscribe if this is the type of stuff that you're into. Like the video, share it if you can. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.